The big question for me in discernment was always this, if our fundamental vocation as a Christian is to love, ultimately for me the question I had to answer was, how did I believe God was calling me to be the most loving, generous person I could be? When I discovered that was my vocation, that was my call. As a little boy, I thought about being a priest. And then my senior year in high school, I started thinking about it, but I was just not in a place where I thought I could go. Went to Wabash College for 2 years, transferred to IUPUI, earned a degree in biology from Purdue, and then worked 6 or 7 years after college. Like many young adults, I got focused on school and working to pay my way through school and just kind of got lazy. So I would call myself a young adult who got lazy in the faith. Never rejected or anything like that, just got lazy, so how young adults can kind of get absorbed in that time of their life. But even in that time, I had thoughts of priesthood. The thoughts came back pretty hard and pretty strong, and I kept pushing them away and pushing them away. And I remember going to confession to a priest who I said, "Father, I don't know what to do. These thoughts keep coming back to me." He pulled out his business card, said, "You owe it to yourself to talk to in the church to look at that and explore that." And he gave me his business card and wrote down there the name of our vocation director, Father Paul Aitchen. He wrote down his phone number. I put the card in my wallet. This is the card that Father Noah Casey gave me in that confession in 1995. And went on with my life, but they just kept coming back and coming back, and I had to explore the question. I had been working this impression, if you go to seminary, it's because you already know you're going to be a priest. And he said something to me that freed me up, because he said, the same Holy Spirit that brings you to seminary is the same one that will take you away. It'll take you away as a priest or as a layman. But either way, your time here of formation, learning about prayer, internal growth, deepening relationship with God and the church will serve you and will serve the church. That one conversation gave me an understanding that the freedom that I had to go was the same freedom I had to leave. And that gave me the freedom to go. The Archdiocese paid for my 5 years in seminary. If they said, "Now you have to pay for this yourself," I never would have gone. I guarantee you I would not have gone. I would have immediately said, "I don't have the ability to do this." So the freedom to be able to go and discern, because they were going to cover that year, that first year and the second and third, was critical. I just knew I was where I was supposed to be. Every new community, you have to get to know the community, right? You have to understand who they are and what's happening there, and in prayer and discernment with the community, discerning where are we being called to. Clearly here, it's needed for me to speak Spanish here. My first pastorate was with a bilingual parish. My first substantial immersion was in Antigua, Guatemala in 2001 for 4 months. And then I was sent to do another immersion experience by the Archdiocese in 2007. So I served and studied and lived in Guadalajara, Mexico for 5 months in 2007. I was assigned to St. Anthony and Holy Trinity, and so I was there in the near west side for 11 and a half years. Then I went to a parish that was monolingual once again, but I was only there 2 years before becoming the pastor of St. Monica. And so I'm just finishing up my first 6-year term and have been renewed for another term. We had over 4,700 people at our Easter Masses this past Easter. It's just a great reminder to all of us. Life in the church is precious and joy-filled. As a young priest, I would go and visit those seniors in the hospital. I'd visit them at the Hermitage. And so I was very much aware of this generation of priests. Just a particular gratitude. Many of these priests are now retired. They were young priests in a time when there was a great exodus of many priests, and they stayed. They stayed faithful to their promises They stay faithful to the people of God. So it's a great way to support them in their retirement, to make certain they have adequate housing, adequate food, adequate health care, so that we're caring for them, just as you might care for your parents or grandparents. We can be tempted to kind of circle our wagons in our own silos, and think the church is just my parish, but we're not. We're part of something bigger. The UCA is a way to make certain that certain core ministries are funded beyond the cathedraticums, so that we can make certain that we don't see young men, or maybe older men like I was, say no to discernment because I can't afford to go to seminary. None of us can do this alone. We all need one another. Someone you may not ever see or know will receive the benefit of your generosity. How might you help one or two people through your own contribution to the United Catholic Appeal, and realize that for them you made a difference.